on the pressing issues of the ceasefire, but also on this issue of getting humanitarian aid in at volume, at speed. And then we've discussed a plan for what then happens afterwards. I think we can do our very best to alleviate what is an awful situation at the moment. So thank you very much for the discussion we've had so far and the discussion we're about to continue.
Great shape. The trade deal was made
fantastic.
With UK. The Prime Minister, they did a great job. You know, they've been trying to make that deal for 12 years and he got it done.
I'll invite you to a
Everybody respects him. There'll be a lot of jobs to here. And great for America. And, you know, in terms of even the relationship.
Fantastic job with regard to the trade deal. You know, they wanted a trade deal for years.
It keeps it even closer.
Too many different terms of different people. And you got it.
Whiskey? Well, we'll talk about that. I didn't know whiskey was a problem.
It's a great deal for
I'm not a big whiskey drinker. Maybe I should be one of them. Maybe I'll have some whiskey.
Brings us even closer together.
Well, we're going to take a look
We also
at it.
discussed, obviously, Gaza. And I think
We want to make the Prime Minister happy. We want to make, by the way, your First Lady, I would say First Lady, she's a respected person all over the United States.
We only hope
I don't know what he's doing, but she's very respected. As respected as him. I don't want to say more, I'll get myself in trouble. But she's a great woman and very highly respected.
What do you have to say on Gaza today?
We're prepared to help.
Well, we've, as you know, given a lot of money to
Terrible
Gaza for
situation.
food and everything else.
The whole thing
A lot of that money is
been
stolen
there
by Hamas,
many years.
and a lot of the food is
But it's
stolen.
great to hear.
But we're very much involved, and I think it's one of the main reasons for me.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing it today.
We'll be talking about Gaza.
Do you get ceasefire talks going then?
Well, we want to get it going, but as you know, with Cambodia, they just announced a very big beyond it is peace. That was going to be a very bad war, and so we're honored we got involved, and it's essentially settled. I think they're going to be settling it today, so it went for a few days. That was going to go on for years. That could have gone on for years. Millions of people could have been killed. We ended the war, and we're very happy about it.
The Prime Minister says that recognising the Palestinian state will be a concrete step towards a lasting peace. Do you agree with his position?
Well, I'm not going to take a position. I don't mind him taking a position. I'm looking for getting people fed right now. For me, that's the number one position, because you have a lot of starving people. You have people that, you know, the United States recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we gave $60 million. It's a lot of money. No other nation gave money. I know the Prime Minister would if he knew about it, and he really knows about it now because we're going to be discussing it. But we gave $60 million. Nobody said even thank you. You know, thanks. Somebody should say thank you.
So
but
we're
other
going to work
nations are going to have to step up. When I spoke to Ursula yesterday, she said
we
that
also
the
discussed
European
inside
nations are going to step up
that
very
we
substantially.
are, you know, there's a whole new thing happening with regard to energy from nuclear.
Well, free speech is very important.
Prime
I don't know if
Minister
you're
is,
referring to any place in particular.
Looking at that very
Perhaps
strongly.
they are,
You know,
but
you have
We've had free speech for a very, very long time.
We're
very proud about that.
What a great brand that is. But you're also doing the Rolls-Royce and the nuclear plants, the smaller plants. We're doing smaller.
It's about the boats coming over the
Small
channel,
is,
so we're taking a lot of action
interesting.
to stop
They
people
do
coming.
a small plant, very easy,
over the
very
channel that
safe,
shouldn't be here.
and as they need more, they
Stopping
hook
them
up
coming in the
another
first place.
plant.
Well,
Returning
immigration
them
is
back.
a big factor.
You know, doing the
I
$20
think,
billion
frankly, if
plant.
they're coming from other countries
Gets
and you
tough
don't
for a
know
lot
who they
of people
are,
to
and
do.
so are they coming
we're
from
just studying
prisons?
that.
We
It
have
sounds
them
like
where
you're
they came in from prisons. We're moving them all out. We had a border last June,
Nuclear
just
about 2 months ago.
last month.
It's now
We
safe.
had
and
zero
very
people
expensive.
come into
No, we
the
see
zero,
nuclear
other
as a
than
big
coming
part of
through
the future,
legal means.
as we go
If
to
you're
sustainable,
stopping
independent,
immigration and stopping the wrong
energy, and I
people,
think that,
I give
between
my
the
hats
two of
are
us,
off to
we
you.
can
You're
work
doing
very
not a
closely.
good thing. You're
Yes,
doing a
yes, we
fantastic thing.
agreed that
So I
that's
know
our
nothing about the
ambition,
boats.
that's our
But if the boats are loaded up with bad people, and they usually are, because, you know, other countries don't send their best. They send people that they don't want. And they're not stupid people. And they send the people that they don't want. And I've heard that you've taken a much stronger stance on
Yeah, we've done a lot of work stopping them coming. We just signed an agreement to return them, and we've returned 35,000, in fact, under the first year of this Labour government, of people who shouldn't be in this country. So we're very pleased that we're getting on with returning people who've got no right to work in
That's
together.
great. As somebody that loves this, I love this country. My mother was born
We're
in,
going up
as
to
you
the
know,
oil
my mother was
capital.
born in Scotland.
In a little
And
while,
it's
we're
an
going up to
incredible
Aberdeen.
place,
That's
a
called the
beautiful
oil
place.
capital of Europe.
If that be the case,
And
I
it's,
congratulate
it's
you.
a great
That's
asset
exactly
that you have up there
because
someday.
you know Europe is
If they ever
a
think
much
they
different
change
place
their
than it was
thinking on
just
that, you have a
5 years ago, 10
great
years ago.
and valuable asset.
They've
There's
got to
a
get
lot
their
of
act together. If they don't, you're not
valuable
going to have Europe anymore as
resources
you know it. And
underground.
you
there.
can't do that. This is a
that's a decision
magnificent
for you to make,
part of the
but it's
world,
a
and you
very
cannot ruin it. You
amazing
cannot let
place,
people
and
come
it's,
in here
it
illegally.
is considered the
And what
oil
happens
capital
is there'll
of
be
Europe.
murderers, there'll be drug dealers,
It's
there'll be
another
all
option
sorts
that
of
you
things that other
So
countries
we are
don't want.
doing really well
And they
as a
send them
country,
to you, and they send them to us,
I think
and
that
you've got to
the
stop
Prime
them. And
Minister
I hear
has-
that
has been
you've
so
taken a very
supportive of
strong
us,
stand
yeah,
on immigration.
and so
taking a strong
so
stand on
strong and
immigration
so
is
respected.
imperative.
And I respect him much more today than I did before because I just met his wife and family. He's got a perfect
I
wife.
don't
and
know. I
family.
mean, based on television,
That's
I would
never
say
easy to
not
achieve,
particularly
right?
because those
But,
children were very
take no
hungry. But
credit for that.
we're giving a lot of money and a lot of food.
And together we got
Other
a deal done
nations
that
are
has
now
not been
stepping up.
able to be
I know
done.
that this nation is right
It's a
here.
humanitarian crisis.
It's a deal
It's
that's
an
very
absolutely
good for both
fantastic,
sides.
really good deal.
You can
And nobody wants to see that. And I think
very
people in Britain are revolted at seeing what they're seeing on their screens. So we've got to get to that ceasefire. And thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions?
Also, to just get more and more aid in. Again, America's done a lot on this. A lot of countries have done a lot. We're now working with Jordan.
I'm going to
on
make
getting
a new
direct,
deadline of
aid
about
drops
10,
in. But this is a desperate situation.
10 or 12
Are you
days
going
from
to think Israel
today.
has done all it can?
There's no
do
reason
to
in
avoid
waiting.
civilian casualties in Gaza?
There's
Well,
no
I think
reason.
nobody's done
50 days. I want to be
anything
generous.
great over there. The whole place is a mess.
We just don't see any
It'll
progress
get
being made.
straightened out, but it's a mess. They have to get food and food and safety right now. And ultimately, look,
Right.
Hamas did a horrible thing, and they paid a big price. But Hamas did a
Well, it's
horrible
going to
thing.
be
But I
working
always
with the
said when you
United
get down
States
to the
will be,
last 20 or 10,
helping with the
get
food.
down to 20. We got a
A
lot
lot
of
of access to
hostages
food.
out.
We got a lot of food
And,
ourselves.
You helped us by that.
And we're going to bring it
But
over.
we got a
We're
lot
also
of
going to make sure
hostages
that
out
they don't
over
have
the last
barriers
6
stopping
months
people.
that I've
You've
been
seen
in.
the
I've been
areas
in
where they
office for
actually have
6
food,
months now.
and the people are
And
screaming
these
for the food in
hostages
there.
have been,
They're
many of them have come to
35,
the Oval
40
Office
yards
and
away,
thanked me so profusely.
and they won't
I said,
let them
"You have
because
to
they have
thank me.
lines that are
I
set
did
up.
what I have to do. But I
And
always
whether
said when
they're
you
set
get
up
down to
by
the final
Hamas
20,
or whoever,
they
but
won't
they're-
release
they're
them.
Very strict
Because
lines.
that's like
We
their
have to get rid of
shield.
those lines.
Very unfair.
But we're going to be
And
getting
so
some
something's gonna
good,
have to be
strong
done.
food. We can
They were
save
really
a lot of
unwilling
people.
to
I mean,
talk.
some of those kids
But
are.
I've said that.
That's
You'll
real
get down to the
starvation
final
stuff. I
10
see
or
it.
20. It turns out to be
And
20. I
you
thought
can't
that would be
fake
the
that.
number. I said they're not
So
going
we're
to be
gonna be,
dealing with us.
Even more
you know, many of the
involved. We did some
hostages are now
airlifts
dead, you know
before,
that.
some airdrops.
And parents come
And the
up to
people
me.
are
A
running
woman
for it.
came up to me 2 weeks ago.
And
she just
the Prime
wants her
Minister's
son
going to
back.
help us. They're very
And I
effective.
said, "How's he
with that. You've
doing?
done that
My son's
before.
dead, sir, but he's with them." And
They've done that for 100
we want
years
the
very
body.
well.
She wanted the body of this young
it's not-
boy,
it's
her
not
young,
very hard
beautiful
to do,
son,
actually.
just as much as if you were alive. It was just as important. There was no difference. And it's a tragic situation, frankly. But we got a lot out. And now possibly the fight will have to be a little bit different.
I have
but
great
they
love
have
for
totally
Scotland.
changed
You
now.
know,
They
my mother
don't
loved
want to give
Scotland.
hostages.
And she loved the Queen.
Very unfair. You have 20
I don't know.
living
Like,
people.
hurt myself by saying
Case
this,
living. You
the
have many
monarchists
dead people too.
like
that
it.
they want to
Some
get
other
old
people,
times.
but she loved the
They have
Queen.
20
Whenever the Queen
living
was on
people.
television, she wanted to
And,
watch. And she would come back
told,
religiously. She'd come
Israel, I
back to
told Bibi
Scotland
that
once a year with my
you
sister
have to now
Marion,
maybe do it a different way.
primarily, and sometimes my sister Elizabeth also. But
Yeah,
they,
ceasefire's possible.
They love
but you
this
have
part
to,
of the
you have to
world.
get it. You have to end
And
it.
you know, we're talking
You're
about the Isle of
Israel-
Lewis.
with
We're
Israel.
talking about.
You're talking about there because we have many
serious
ceasefires
Scotland.
going on. The whole world is.
Serious Scotland. There was no doubt
If I
about
weren't
it.
around, you'd have
So,
right
yeah,
now
it gives
6
me a
major
feeling,
wars going on. India would be
It's
fighting
different. You
with
go to another
Pakistan.
country, you have no relationship.
You
to
see
it.
what
You
we
got
just
to
did
like
yesterday
maybe the head
with
of the
2
country.
nations that we're
And
trading
it's
with.
different when your mother was
And
born
doing
here.
the trade, I said,
Stored
I'm not
away.
going to do any trade deal unless
Right,
you guys
and stored
settle your
away.
differences.
Beautiful little place.
We got it settled in 24 hours. I mean, they just announced it was settled, which was a tremendous thing. But Serbia, Kosovo is another one. We have
Well,
many
I assume when we
hotspots
do our
that
trade deal
were-
overall, a lot of it comes from
I think a
Scotland.
very
I
big
hope.
one was
Maybe all
India
of
and
it should go to
Pakistan.
Scotland.
very good deal.
You're talking about 2
holding
nuclear
that.
nations. That was a very big one. But
we
and we get help
already
from
achieved
the
great
UK.
things under
The
the deal.
Prime Minister's helped. We
have
even more
cases where we specifically
A lot of it is
comes
going
from
to
here
Scotland. I mean, I do know
that you're aware
We
of,
deal with
and
the
you know,
UK.
when you come from a
But
country,
a
you
lot
can
of
do
it
things,
comes
and
to
I call up the
Scotland.
Prime
You know, I
Minister,
was
and all
very
of a sudden,
particular. I
he's
was-
able to do things.
this is
True
a,
also with other
part of the world I
presidents
wanna-
and prime
I wanna see
ministers.
thrive.
But we've done it.
It's going to thrive.
Nobody's ever done what we've done. We have 6
different major look at. If you take a look at Rwanda and the Congo, Republic of the Congo, they've been fighting for 31 years. 8 million people dead. It was going on. Nobody could go to that part of Africa. They were being killed.
By the fact that you still have 20 hostages or so.
With machetes.
And the
And it was
people
a
of
violent
Israel are very
situation.
concerned about the 20
And
hostages.
I was
It's
able
very
to.
interesting.
They liked Trump.
could say they
They
could
wanted to
be
make a
more
trade deal
concerned
with
about
Trump. They wanted us
retribution
to
than
take
the
their
20
rare
hostages.
earths.
But
They want to
really
give
want
us
the
their rare earths.
20
And
hostages to
I got to know the leader of the
survive,
Congo. I got to know both
live
of
to
them
make it.
indirectly.
You know, many of the hostages came
And I
to my
called
office.
them. I said, let's end the
Right,
war.
the Oval Office.
I don't want anything until you end
And
the
I
war.
was amazed.
We ended the war. As you
I
know,
would
the
ask
foreign
them the
ministers
question,
came
was
up
there any
2
sign
weeks
of
ago.
love?
And
Was there any
the
sign
leaders
of,
are going to be coming very shortly.
when you
to
were a
Washington,
hostage and you have all
Rwanda
of these
and-
people from Hamas
Congo.
around you,
I mean,
sometimes
that's another one
100,
that we did.
sometimes
So
10, sometimes
we've done a
2.
lot.
But you're a hostage.
It's an
and
honor
you're-
to do
you're being
it.
stored
It's
in a
not
pipe.
hard for me to do
It's
it,
not
and I
even
use
really,
not in
you
all
know,
cases, but I
it's
use
a
a combination of
little
knowing
pipe.
them a little bit,
And some
or in
said
some
they didn't
cases
think they were
knowing
going to
them a
make it
lot. I
because they
knew
were losing air. There wasn't
the
enough
leaders
air.
of Pakistan and
It opened
India.
up the
I
pipe
know
just
very
in
well.
time, but they didn't do it
And
on
you know, they're in
purpose.
the
They
midst
just
of a
happened
trade
to
deal,
open
and
it.
yet
They
they're
got
talking
lucky.
about nuclear weapons.
But
I
I
say,
said,
this is
did they ever
crazy.
wink at you
So I
and
said,
say,
I'm not
like,
doing a trade deal
don't
with
worry,
you
you're
guys.
gonna
And
be
they want the
okay?
trade deal.
Did
They
they
need
ever
it. I'm
give you
not
some
doing a
extra
trade deal with
food,
you if you're going to
even
have
if it was
war.
a piece of bread?
And that's
Did
a
they
war
ever
that
give you
spreads
anything
to
during
other
that
countries.
time?
You'll get
Some were there
nuclear
for
dust.
400 or 500
We'll all
days
get
now.
nuclear dust. When they start
Long
using
time,
nuclear
year and a half,
weapons,
more than that.
that stuff blows all over the
Not
place, and
one person
really
said
bad
there
things
was any
happen.
love
So
from anybody. You know,
maybe
in
we're
other
being a
words,
little
you have
selfish when
hundreds
we
of
want to
people.
save wars too, but
And
we
you see it
we
in the
stopped a
movies,
lot of wars, and
where
it's a great honor.
Somebody's a prisoner,
to have done
somebody's
it.
helped.
Thank
President,
you all
what about
very
Mr.
much.
President, Mr. President?
We're going to be talking inside about
people were
very much about Gaza and the
into a
humanitarian
house and
aspects of Gaza.
live in an
Mr.
attic
President,
in
what about
secret.
Russia
You know,
and
you
Ukraine?
see
They're
signs
talking
of
about
something.
ceasefires. What's the
said,
I would have said
Anything
5
like-
times we would have had a deal.
They wink at you,
I've
did
spoken
they say, don't worry,
to
you're gonna be
President
okay.
Putin a lot.
I never received.
I got
I
along
asked
with
that
him
question
very
all the
well.
time.
But
I've never
5
received one
times, and
answer
every
that
time
said,
4 times.
Yeah,
maybe,
they really
but,
wanted to help. No, the hatred is just
We've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out
Well, I
and starts
think
launching
Israel can do a
rockets
lot.
into some city
I will
like
say
Kiev
that Iran,
and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or
I think,
whatever. You have
interjected
bodies lying
themselves
all
in
over
this
the
last
street.
negotiation. Can
And
you
I say
imagine
that's
the beating
not the way
they
to
took?
do it.
We wiped
So we'll
out
see
their
what happens
nuclear
with that. I'm very
possibilities. They
disappointed.
can start again.
I'm
If they
disappointed
do, we'll
in
wipe it
President
out
Putin.
faster than you can
Very disappointed.
wave
in
your
him.
finger at it.
So we're going to have to look.
We'll
I'm
have
going to
do
reduce that
We will
50
do
days that I
gladly.
gave him to a
Openly
lesser
and
number
gladly.
because I think I already
They've
know
been
the
saying
answer. What's gonna
Iran's
happen.
been sending out bad signals.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you
A
later.
country that just got wiped out. They've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals, and they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. They were talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. They were interviewed on a recent show, and the foreign minister saying things that he shouldn't be talking about, shouldn't be saying. And I think they got involved in this negotiation, telling Hamas and giving Hamas signals and orders, and that's not good. That's not good.
I would say, look, we need to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and we must always start from there. But also recognise the situation on the ground in Gaza is absolutely intolerable, and I think that certainly speaking for the British public and myself, seeing those images of starving children in particular are revolting, and there's a sense of revulsion in the British public at what they're seeing, and they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some can be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US, with Jordan on that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in. And we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because this is a humanitarian catastrophe now. We also need to look beyond that situation to what then happens in the event of a ceasefire, which is desperately needed. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're having a discussion about what a peace plan would look like after that, component parts of that. And we have to be really clear at this point that Hamas can play absolutely no part in any future governance in Palestine, and that's and in Gaza, and it's really important that we're clear about what triggered this, who took the hostages, and calling out Hamas for what they are, which is a terrorist organisation. But I think today the focus has to be on getting that humanitarian aid in.
Will the UK avoid your pharmaceutical tariffs until it happens before August the 1st?
Well, we'll be announcing on pharmaceuticals sometime in the very near future. We have a very big plan on pharmaceuticals. We want to bring a lot of the pharmaceuticals back to America, where they should be. If you look at COVID, it sort of taught us a lesson. We were getting our pharmaceuticals from other countries. We almost didn't make any. We used to make them ourselves, and we're going to want to be making a lot of them ourselves, all of them in a sense. But you also have a good pharmaceutical business. We'll be dealing with you on pharmaceuticals also. And we certainly feel a lot better with your country working on pharmaceuticals for America than some of the other countries that were. With the relationship we have, you would not use that as a cudgel. You wouldn't be using it as a block. But we're going to be announcing sometime very soon, I think, pharmaceuticals are our whole thing. And the companies know. And drug prices are going to be coming down very substantially in the U.S., very, very substantially. And that'll happen very soon.
Mr. President, we can all sense your frustration.
No, go ahead.
Vladimir Putin.
Hold it.
We can all sense your frustration with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Do you think he's been lying to you about his intentions in Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to use the word lying. All I know is we'd have a good talk, and it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about? I spoke to him 3-4 hours ago, and it looked like we were on our way, and then I'd say, forget it, and I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this has happened on too many occasions, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Successful social media sites. There are new powers here to censor your site, state my name.
To censor my site?
To censor your site.
You mean Truth?
And Facebook.
Truth social?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. Nothing about censoring free speech. But this country is the proud free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection
We
issue.
actually passed a bill in Congress, headed up by my wife, actually, which was to pull bad stuff out having to do with children, because it is a problem. But I cannot imagine him censoring Truth Social. That's more of a very political, and it's been a very big success.
Not going to happen.
And I only say good things about him and his country, so if they censor me, you're making a mistake. I'm going to give my ambassador the job, make sure it's not censored.
It's not happening.
I had not heard that.
You're a big investor in this area, Mr. President.
Say it?
You're a big investor in this area of Scotland.
To put it mildly. Like this ballroom that we built from scratch.
Do you worry, though, about the risk of increased taxes here? Will that stop investing? And do you have a message last night on the soccer to the English Lionesses who won the European trophy?
So I think that I have a theory that low taxes bring growth. We just passed a big tax cut bill, the biggest bill in the history of our country, actually. And one big, beautiful bill. I used to call it the great one big, beautiful. We took the word great out. But it's actually called the one big, beautiful bill. It's essentially a very large tax cut bill for everybody. And our country's pretty soon, I think I can say it right now, our country has never done better. We had a country that was dead. It was dead 6 months ago, a year ago. leaders from NATO, we had a very successful meeting at
Yeah.
NATO. Your prime minister was there. It was an unbelievable love fest with all of those countries, and they agreed to go 5% and all the things. Very smart to do, but many of the leaders said, essentially, they said, your country was dead 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we had a dead, and we did. We had a dead country. We had a president who didn't know where the hell he was. We had horrible, horrible people running our country. I think they were sick people, actually, sick. You talk about censorship. Those are big. That's all they did was censor, and they didn't know what to do. And they had high taxes. They wanted more tax, total censorship, transgender for everybody, men playing in women's sports, everything bad they wanted, and they still do. That's what they still do. That's why they're down at 15% or something. I saw it today, the lowest that the other part of the Democrats have ever been. But no, I find that when you lower taxes, you get growth. I will say this, and the Prime Minister hasn't been here very long, in all fairness. I think he'll be a tax cutter. But I find that as we cut taxes, we did more business. In my first tax bill, we cut taxes from 39% down to 22%. And we ended up at the end of the first year, when it was still a little raw, we ended up taking in much more revenue than we did at 39%. It was pretty amazing. And we're taking in a lot of revenue right now. And this was an additional tax cut. So I find, for whatever it's worth, tax cuts are very good.
Mr. President, moved up the deadline. It's now 10 or 12 days. Is the sanction the same, that you're going to slap a 100% tariff on anybody who does business with Russia?
So what I'm doing is we're going to do secondary sanctions, unless we make a deal. And we might make a deal. I don't know. You don't know. It's we've done so many peace deals. This is the one I started out with. And, I know President Putin called me. He wanted to know if I could help him with Iran. I said, no, I don't need your help with Iran. I need your help with Russia. And so that's the one deal that continues to linger. And, we're losing 5,000. They're losing. I'm not losing. You're not losing. But 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian kids a week are dying. And that's not mentioning the people that are dying also in towns where, he's lobbing missiles into certain towns like Kiev. And he's got to make a deal. It's too many people are dying. It's a really bloody war. And the 5 is now, they're really telling me that number is obsolete. It's like 7.
That's terrible.
So you have 7,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers dying every single week for no reason whatsoever. So you would think, based on common sense, you would think he'd want to make a deal. We'll find out.
No communication with this publicly. Have you had any other committee channels conversations with the Russians reiterating this?
In what?
Reiterating this new pressure and deadline.
We're going to have you're the press. I'm reiterating it to you. I'd say 10 to 12 days. I'll announce it probably tonight or tomorrow. But there's no reason to wait. If you know what the answer is going to be, why wait? And it would be sanctions and maybe tariffs, secondary tariffs. You know what a secondary tariff is. And look, the Russian economy, I don't want to do that to Russia. I love the Russian people. They're great people. I don't want to do that to Russia. But this thing, they're losing a lot of Russians. They've lost 1 million Russians. And that's the, sons. That's the sons and daughters of Russian families. They leave the house. They go, bye, Mom, bye, Dad, and then they get blown away. And Ukrainian, too. Look at Ukraine. It's a disaster what's happened there. But it continues to go on. As you know, we made a deal where the European Union is essentially involved, but it's NATO, and we're supplying weapons to NATO. NATO's now paying because the United States, because of Biden's in for $350 billion, the European nations are in for about $100 billion. Should be the opposite way, by the way, because we have a big ocean in between. Should be the opposite way. But I think that eventually something's going to happen. It should happen fast. So many people are dying. When I settled out with Congo and Rwanda, they lost almost 8 million people. And it just made so much sense. And If I didn't get involved, they wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about settling it. It was just going on forever. And nobody could go into those territories because they'd get killed. They'd get killed. And now they have I hear it's a whole different ballgame. We settled it. This is one that should be settled. Russia, Ukraine. This is one that really should be settled.
Mr. President, Scotland's First Minister has today set out his plans for a second referendum on Scottish independence. Can I get your reaction to that as someone with deep ties to Scotland? Sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, can I also get your thoughts on that? If the SNP do win the majority in next year's election, then they have the right to hold the referendum.
Well, I don't want to get involved in your politics. We got enough politics of our own. I will say that I predicted what was going to happen the last time. You remember? I was opening the first course over at Aberdeen, and I was over here, and at the same time, and they asked me that question. I made a prediction. It was the day before the vote, and I made it correct. I like to be correct, but I made a correct prediction. I don't know. I do say that when they made that deal, somebody said that it was, and I remember this very distinctly. I said, could they do this all the time? There was a little bit of a restriction, like 50 or 75 years before you could take another vote. Because, a country can't go through that too much. I don't know the First Minister, but I've heard great things about him. I've spoken to him. I hear very good things about him, and I'm meeting him today. So maybe I'll have a better opinion then.
Let me answer that straightforwardly, because I believe in a stronger Scotland, in a better United Kingdom. And I think that at a time like this, when it's quite clear that there's uncertainty and volatility around the world, the strength of the United Kingdom together is very important for all four nations, very important for Scotland. And that should be our priority, that should be our focus, not on the politics, which feels like the politics of yesteryear now, at a time like this. And I think that the First Minister should probably focus more on his delivery in Scotland than on his constitutional issues, and we might have a better health service in Scotland. But at a time like this, I think the United Kingdom is always stronger as four nations. I think that's better for all four nations. I think that's how Scotland is stronger. Look at the deal that we've been able to do with the United States, a really important deal that we made just months ago. That is what the United Kingdom can do when we act as a powerful set of four nations together, and there are very many other examples.
Mr. President, you toured the Federal Reserve last week. And
I did.
Set to meet this week. Do you think your visit has inspired a potential rate cut, or how do you see things shaping out this week?
Well, it's interesting. I did tour it. I toured the building. And if you looked at this building, if you came here like 14, 15 years ago, we've had it a long time. It's been an honor to have Turnberry. But I was on much more opulent walls, ceilings, floors. We had to do this. And we did a very great job. I mean, you see how beautiful it is inside. Everything was saved. Everything was preserved. We had ceilings that were in bad shape. They were falling down. It's very old. Wasn't properly maintained. Now it's brand new and beautiful, and we saved everything. If you really think here, you took a look and you were sort of commenting the coloring. Now this is a brand new building, but if you look outside, it's equally opulent and beautiful. And we didn't do that by spending, hundreds of millions of dollars in surrounding a railing underneath the area that you're painting. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Brand new, beautiful plywood, very expensive, wrapped around a figurine or a railing to preserve it. But you don't have to do that. You can just wrap a cloth, they call it a blanket, and you don't even have to do that if you're careful when you're doing the ceiling. But I don't know what they did. They'd take down a ceiling and put up a new ceiling, and the new ceiling had no opulence to it. Or they'd fix the ceiling. But I would say that all I need is a good plaster and a can of paint. And, they spent $3.9 billion. And I spent a lot of money too, but it's I'd say 3.8 billion less, meaning I spent probably $100 million making this place incredible.
And you were saying a lot of that was local trades.
I used local
We were
trades.
looking at the windows, I think, in the
Right.
next room.
I had local trades
Yeah.
do a lot of this. We have the most opulent windows next door, and I had a choice. Do I take them out? And, they suffered through 125 years of storms. You have very big storms in this
Yeah.
area. When you have a storm, you have a storm.
We do it properly.
And they made it, barely, but they were in bad shape. So I had some local people come up and we looked at them. You have some great craftsmen here, I think is what you're getting at. And they said, sir, honestly, they've had it. We can copy it and do it much better. And they did. If you take a look at the windows in the various dining rooms, they're magnificent. And they're new, and they're much better looking than what was there. Same exact look, other than a much higher quality. And they're local people. I use a lot of your local people. You have really great local tradesmen here, yes?
But do you foresee a rate cut this week? Do you expect...
A rate cut,
Yeah,
meaning a tax cut?
No. Do you expect the Fed to cut rates this week?
Oh, I think he has to. You had 11 cuts, In Europe, they had 11 cuts. In other places, they had 10 or 11 cuts. And we had none, but I'm not going to say anything bad. We're doing so well, even without the rate cut. With the rate cut, it would be better. It affects our housing a little bit. Look, we should be 3 points lower. Each point is $360 billion. Can you imagine that? That's big numbers. Each point, 1 point of cut, is the equivalent of $360 billion in savings. That's big stuff, Those are big numbers in the U.S. Everything's big. He should cut. A smart person would cut. He leaves very soon, so it's like one of those things. But I'll miss him greatly. I'll miss him.
Turnbury, if I may, have you or will you enlist the Prime Minister your effort to bring the open back to Turnbury? And Prime Minister, you described this beautiful cause. Do you agree with the President that it's time to bring the open back to Turnbury?
Well, as you know, that's not a matter directly for me. That's for the sporting authorities. But look, it is first time I've been here. It's absolutely magnificent, both inside and out, and looking at the courses itself and the building. It's incredible. But the decision on the Open is not a decision for me, as you'll understand. I should just pick up on the earlier question, because I, for one, will say congratulations to the Lionesses. Last night, our women's football team won the Euros, defended the Euros, I should say,
it's a big story.
which was a really big success, and the mental and physical resilience that they showed was quite incredible. So
it's a big deal.
There's a lot of bunting out today and tomorrow to celebrate them bringing that cup home.
Did you get the chance to do any planning for the upcoming state visit, and how's that going to work? Where would you stay, and thinking about this?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's never been done before, twice. We had our original at Buckingham Palace, and now I guess we're going to Windsor.
Yeah.
And it's never been done, and I'm a big fan of King Charles. I've known him for quite a while. He's a great guy, great person. He looks really well to me. He looks great. So we look forward to coming over. It's going to be... It was one of the most beautiful evenings I've ever seen. I hate to say it, but nobody does it like you people in terms of the pomp and ceremony.
True.
And I look forward to being here with the ambassador. Our ambassador is a very, very successful man who just wanted to do this. And I said, how are you going to be able to do that? And he's so committed to, the relationship between the countries. But he's a very great guy and a very, very successful man. So I very much thank you for doing this.
Thank you for the honors.
About what?
Will you visit London during the state visit?
I will. I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London. But a nasty person. I think he's done.
He's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London. Yeah.
Would you have it on these levels? So MP Nigel Farage has asked the Parliament to be recalled when you're there.
Well, I like Nigel. Nigel, as you know, is a friend of mine. Nigel's done very well. He's a friend of mine. And Keir's a friend of mine.
Would you recall Parliament so that the President can talk to MPs?
Well, Parliament's in recess at the time, but look, I do want to be clear. This is an unprecedented and very special state visit. This has never been done before, and there'll be many elements of it that have never been seen before. So this is going to be a historic occasion, and we're all very much looking forward to it. And I was very, very pleased to be able to put forward the invitation when we were at the White House earlier this year. So but this is not just a state visit. They're always incredible occasions, and this is an unprecedented second state visit. So you can imagine just how special that's going to be.
The fact that it's never been done before, and that's because it's non-consecutive, and it's the only reason it could be, made it even more interesting, frankly. So it's going to be great. And being with Charles and Camilla and everybody, I've gotten to know because of 4 years and now 6 months. Gotten to know a lot of the family members. They're great people. They're really great people. And in that sense, I think that the UK is very lucky. You could have people that weren't great people. I don't know if I'd say that, but you could have people that weren't. But
we're very lucky to have our
Yeah.
royal family. Absolutely fantastic.
So we really look forward to that. As far as Parliament, if he wants me to speak in Parliament, I'll do it. Okay? But it doesn't have to be then. It could be some other time. Maybe we should save it for another time. Well, we'll let the one visit speak for itself. But anytime, if I could be helpful, I would certainly do it. Thank you.
Mr. President, with the EU deal minutes, are you considering to get the hostages out if there's no ceasefire deal?
Well, there are a couple of alternatives. Some are pretty strong, but the most sensible alternative is talk and negotiation. But I said a long time ago, at a certain point, they're not going to be talking because they're going to lose their shield. The hostages are a shield for them. They did horrible things on October 7th, and the hostages are a shield. And I said, you're going to get down a number, and the number's going to be at a point where you're not going to be able to get them back unless you're going to be very energetic, or to put it a different way, unless you're going to be very ruthless and violent. It's a bad situation to be in, very bad.
Mr. President, with the EU deal last night, you talked during the campaign about President Putin respecting you and helping you have a relationship with him. Do you still feel that way, that he respects you, considering the conversations you've had that have been really nice?
Yeah. I've always gotten along with President Putin. I have had a great relationship with him. And he went through the Russia hugs, too. We used to talk about it. We used to say, it's too bad we really can't do anything between our countries. Because if we did, they'd say, Look, I was tough on Putin because I was the one that closed up Nord Stream, and Biden came along and opened it up. I was very tough on Putin in one way, but we got along very well. And I never really thought this would happen. I thought we'd be able to negotiate something, and maybe that'll still happen, but it's very late down the process. So I'm disappointed. And the funny thing is that their economy isn't that big, and it's having a hard time right now, but it's a relatively small economy. A strong military, but strong economy. And it used to be a strong economy. Now it's not. He's gone through a lot. Economically, it's not easy. But it's pretty small, compared to that magnificent size of that land. The land is massive. It's got, I guess, 9 time zones or something. It's a massive piece of land. Russia could be so rich. It could be so rich. It could be thriving like practically no other country. And they're holding that back because we can't. He wants to do trade deals with us. He talks about it all the time. He wanted to. And I envision that a lot of trade with Russia. They have a lot of valuable things. When you talk about rare earth, they have serious rare earth, right? They have just about every form you can have. So, Russia could be so rich right now. Instead, they spend all their money on war. They spend everything on war and killing people, and it doesn't make sense to me. I thought he would want to end this thing quickly. I really felt it was going to end. But every time I think it's going to end, he kills people.
Could a meeting help, and are you considering, has been proposed?
I don't know. I'm not, I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, recently, I guess, the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We just had a sense of your differences in political persuasion where Nigel Farage and Sadiq Khan came up in conversation. I wonder if you have any advice, either of you, for a very divided, polarised world on how you make your relationship.
Not differences, yeah. Not differences. I happen to like both men. I like this man a lot, and I like Nigel. And, I don't know the politics over here. I don't know where they stand. I would say one is slightly liberal, not that liberal, slightly, and the other one is slightly conservative. But they're both good men.
Mr. President.
Well, look, we like each other, we respect each other, we get on, and we've both got a great love of our countries, of our families, and therefore there's a huge amount that we have already achieved, actually, together, and will achieve as we go forward, leading our respective countries, and of course the relationship between our countries. Donald, we were talking about this morning, that whether it's defence, security, intelligence sharing, it's a close, historic relationship. We have fought together in the past. We've always stood together. And I, for one, am very pleased that we've got such a good personal relationship between us. And I think it just shows that even if you come from different political perspectives, different backgrounds, actually there's a huge amount of common ground when it comes to what is in the best interests of our two great countries, and they are two great countries. And I think that because we focus on what's best for our countries, we get along very well, and I'm really pleased that that's the case.
Mr. President.
Well, I do know he wants to cut taxes as much as he can. And, politics is pretty simple. It's, I assume there's a thing going on between you and Nigel, and it's okay. It's two parties. But generally speaking, the one who cuts taxes the most, the one who gives you the lowest energy prices and the best kind of energy, the one that keeps you out of wars, he's kept you out of wars, but the one that keeps you out of wars, you have a few basics, and you can go back 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whoever does these things, but low taxes, keep us safe, keep us out of wars, no crime, stop the crime, and in your case, a big immigration component, because I know that your attitude has become strong on immigration, strong on the toughness of immigration. But I think whoever's going to be, I think I won because we had a lousy president, to be honest with you. We had an incompetent president. But I won because I was very strong on immigration. Now, we had inflation. We had sort of a bad economy with this guy. We had a lot of problems. But I focused on immigration more than I did anything else. And I think I won because of immigration. I think I won because of the border. I had a bad border where millions of people were coming in to our country illegally. And as you know, in last month, 0 people came into our country illegally, 0. So we went from a bad, incompetently run border to the most competently run border that anybody's ever seen.
Prime Minister, the President makes it look easy dealing with illegal migration. You must be envious of his record in such a short period of time.
Well, I think we've been discussing irregular, illegal migration is a huge issue in both our countries. In the United Kingdom, it is a real cause for concern, and that's why we must bear down on it in all its aspects, upstream, across Europe, where a lot of ours comes into through northern France, across the Channel, working with our allies, with our colleagues to break the gangs that are actually running this trade. But equally, being very strong that when people have arrived in this country who've got no right to be here, then we should be removing them to their own country. And that's why I'm really pleased that we've been able to focus on this very intensely and get 35,000 people out of the United Kingdom who had no right to be here. Because the message has to be, you can't make your way to the United Kingdom. We won't tolerate our rules being broken, and if you get here, you will be returned to where you came from. And it's really important that we bear down on that.
We're such an attractive place they want a better life because we are on the
People coming via the rules are always welcome. Of course, we've welcomed talent and people into this country for centuries, literally. But what the British people will not tolerate is those that break the rules, those that come through irregular routes, and that's the really important distinction here. And that's what we're bearing down on. And I'm really pleased that we're through pretty well all of the international engagement I've done, all the meetings I've had, the country we've done deals with. We've done deals with countries in the last 12 months that many people thought it was not possible to do deal with when it came to immigration, irregular immigration. And we've returned thousands of people who've got no right to be here. And that, I think, is, for the British people, we're a reasonable, tolerant country where people are coming lawfully to contribute to our communities, to our country. Then, of course, they're welcome and have made a great contribution. But what people will not tolerate is those that are breaking the rules. And that is an issue of today, but it's a very British thing. We are people who respect rules, and we don't approve of those that break rules.
I can say, though, that I had one of the greatest victories, they say the most consequential in 129 years, so I don't know about that, but it was pretty close. And we won all of the swing states, which never happens. We won the popular vote by millions of votes. We won, tremendous electoral college sweep. And I believe I did it more than anything else because of my strong stand on immigration. And I don't think this country is any different in that sense. I think it's a big factor. And it is with a lot of the European countries. Some of the countries have lost their way, and they have tremendous crime because of it. I mean, you had countries with no crime that now have tremendous crime. And you know the countries, and I know the countries. And so I think it's a huge factor in any election, not just this election, but in any election. I think the one that's toughest and most competent on immigration is going to win the election. But then you add low taxes and you add the economy. He did a great thing with the economy because a lot of money is going to come in because of the deal that was made. But I think that immigration is now bigger than ever before.
Mr. President, your Treasury Secretary is meeting with Chinese trade
Right now.
Right now. Have you received an update? Do you expect a deal when these talks are over, especially with the August 1st deadline?
No, they're meeting right now. And, we have a good relationship with China. But China's tough. And like you're tough, we're all tough, yes. But we're going to see what happens. We just concluded our deal with Japan. It was very good for everybody. We're making, great deals. We're making deals that are good for us, but we want them to be good for everybody. It's important. It's sometimes I'll do something that I shouldn't do because it's not very important for our country, but it's very meaningful for the country on the other side. And I'll let them have that point because it's very important for them. So, I don't know, but we've made a lot of deals in the last couple of months. And then ultimately, as you might as well know, we're going to because we have, you have 200 countries, more. But people don't know that. You got a lot of countries. And I wouldn't want to sit down with 200 people and have to deal the way he was calling me all the time. We want this, we got to have that. These are tough negotiators. These are, look, they're smart people, they're tough negotiators. They know what they want. And, but we're going to be setting a tariff for essentially the rest of the world. And that's what they're going to pay if they want to do business in the United States. Because you can't sit down and make 200 deals. But we've made the big ones. We just finished Indonesia. They opened up their country. We just finished Japan. They opened up their country. Japan opened up the country. They were totally closed. They opened up to our cars, even to rice. Rice was a big deal. They would never take anybody else's rice. They're taking rice. But they opened up their country. Philippines, we just finished. They opened up their country. They were very closed. I'd love to see China open up their country. So we're dealing with China right now, as we speak. Yeah, we're dealing with China right now.
The deal you've got with the UK is better than one with the European Union. Is that because you think
Brexit was a good idea for this country?
No, look, you know, we have a very special relationship with this country. Like, you know, my mother was born here. And not only born here, loved it. She'd come back, I tell you, religiously every year. And she'd go up to Stornoway and see her relatives. But she loved the country. Yeah, that probably has, it always has an impact. Always has an impact. But, you know, Germany has a new leader, and I think he's terrific. I think you like him too.
Yeah,
I think he's terrific. My father was born in Germany. Or Germany was, his parents were just out. But, so, you know, you have a lot of feeling for this part of the world. I do. I want to see this part of the world do well. Germany, Scotland, UK. I want this part of the world to do well. All of the nations. You know, you do feel a certain, you have a feeling, a warm feeling toward a part when your parents are born essentially here. And I think maybe it's slightly different. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but maybe it's slightly different.
Mr. President, you completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell when you landed. Is that something you would ever consider, and why?
Pardon for who?
For Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon,
Yes, you are.
but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it. So,
Mr. President, your opposition to offshore wind is well known. In Scotland,
wind is a disaster.
But in Scotland and across the UK, wind farms.
I know, it's a shame. It's not his fault.
Well,
I used to tell Alex Salmon.
have you spoken to the Prime Minister, and will you speak to the First
Well,
Minister?
all I can do is give my way. Look, wind is the most expensive form of energy, and it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. And look out there. There's no windmills. But if you look in another direction, you see windmills. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building. And you could take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas. And you have it there, the North Sea. This big, that nobody would even see. You can take 1,000 times more power because the wind is intermittent, it doesn't work, it's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They used to be Germany and China, now they're mostly in China. They all come out of China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do, dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. You're going to have to replace them. It's very hard to replace them. Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. So I've restricted windmills in the United States. Now, a couple we have, you know, the poor stupid people at the beginning, they approve them, so they have their full approvals. But I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explain that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy. And we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix, and obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time, and that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar, increasingly nuclear, which is what we've been discussing this morning, civil nuclear as we go forward. The most important thing for the United Kingdom is that we have control of our energy, and we have energy independence and security, because at the moment, whatever the attributes and facilities in the North Sea, that is sold onto the international market, and we buy it back off the international market. That was a historic mistake in my view. But what we need is a mix so that we get the energy security that we need for the future, and that's the focus of everything that we're doing. But what we have discussed today is that the energy prices are too high, which is why we recently took measures to reduce the energy prices, particularly for energy-intensive businesses. But in the long run, the only way to reduce your energy prices is to take control of your energy, and that's what we're doing, taking control of our energy.
Mr. President, King Charles, who you are a great friend of, is a big fan of eco-projects of windmills, as you call them. Is he wrong?
So King Charles is an environmentalist, I will tell you. And I say that in a positive way, not a negative way. And, every time I've met with him, he talks about the environment, how important it is. And I'm all for it. I think that's great. You know, King Charles, more than anything else, loves the country. But I got to know him very well. He truly is an environmentalist. He wants clean air, clean water, you know, all of the things that we all want.
Mr. President, you have said that you have not been briefed on the Epstein files, or your name has not appeared in the Epstein files. But doesn't the AG have to tell you if your name is...
Well, I haven't been overly interested in it. You know, it's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion. I can say this, those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. The whole thing was a fake. They could put things in the file that are fake. But those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down? And then I got somebody new. Nobody even knew anything about it. She was a horrible vice president. She was a border czar, but she never went to the border. She never once called a border patrol agent to find out how we're done. But she was the border czar. Her name was Kamala. Nobody knows her last name. It was Harris. But nobody knew her last name. So I ended up, how would you like to end up in a race where you're killing somebody, you're beating him, and then they say, all right, we'll take him out. He's not working. Let's put somebody else. And then she had a 6-week honeymoon. It was amazing. They predicted she would have a 6-week honeymoon, and she did. And then she got slaughtered. But think of it. Those files were run by these people. They were run by my enemy. If there was anything in there, they would have used them for the election. Yeah.
Do you think that drawing, I think I heard you say something the other day, that the drawing that was the subject of the Wall Street Journal report?
I don't do drawings. I'm not a drawing person.
You think it was fraudulent?
I don't do drawings. Sometimes people say, would you draw a building? And I'll draw 4 lines and a little roof, you know, for charity stuff. But I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women. And also, you know, Epstein was always a very controversial guy. I was at a very high position, you know, pretty much all my life. In all fairness, I've been doing this for a long time. I had the top show on television. I had the #1 bestsellers. I had everything, right? And I was a very successful business guy. He was a very controversial. Who would do a controversial drawing? Now, with that being said, they say there were many letters done by many people, and many big people, you know, big successful people. But I just don't. When you talk about files, I just keep going back, and other people too. Even the enemy says this thing is not correct, because if we had it, we would have used it on the guy. It's a bad issue. They say it's a good issue for Trump. Do you know that my poll numbers are up 4.5 points since this ridiculous Epstein stuff? My poll numbers have gone up 4.5 points because people don't buy it. Okay, people don't buy it. And he's gone, and we want to focus on trade deals. I want to focus on the deal we just made with the European Union, which is the biggest trade deal in history. It's the biggest deal, I think, in history, not just trade deal. So if they would have had something, they would have used it.
And people keep writing stories about the time you threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach with him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
Mr. President, on Gaza, next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask him to do?
Say it what, louder?
Next time you speak to Netanyahu, what will you ask him to do?
Well, I'm going to say, look, we're giving money and we're giving food, but we're over here and we're over in the United States, and I think I can speak for the Prime Minister. We're giving money and things. He's got to sort of like run it.
What should he do?
Well, I want them to make sure they get the food.
Okay.
I want to make sure they get the food, every ounce of food. I think you want
Yeah,
to say
absolutely. It's an absolute point.
because that food isn't being delivered,
Mr. President,
or at least all of it.
you said you were going to set essentially a tariff for the world.
For the world.
What percent will that tariff be?
I would say it'll be somewhere in the 15 to 20% range.
So maybe 15 or 20 or?
No, I said, I sort of know, but I just want to be nice. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
Could you also think about operating UK steel?
Probably one of those two numbers.
But UK steel and aluminum makers here are worried about the tariffs. Will you do anything to help them here?
Aluminum?
And steel.
You're a pretty big aluminum maker.
Yeah, that's already covered in the deal that we've agreed. So we're just doing the implementation of that.
But Mr. President, when will that come down from 25% to 0?
You mean on the overall, on the world?
On steel and aluminum from Britain, it's 25.
Well, we're going to know pretty soon. We're going to have it pretty soon.
Mr. President,
You have no idea that these people are tough negotiators, okay? But we're a big buyer of steel, but we're going to make our own steel, and we're going to make our own aluminum for the most part. But we buy a lot of aluminum from right here, and a lot of steel, too.
Yeah.
Who are you with? Who are you with? Because you're asking such nice questions.
TV News, best time for TV News.
Very good. They're lucky.
We have a lot of unhappy farmers in this country at the moment, and I'm sure the Prime Minister won't thank me for raising this. We've had changes to inheritance tax, which mean a lot of farmers feel they're going to lose their farms when they die of their father. How important are farms to the country?
You mean they're going to lose the farm because of estate taxes?
Correct.
So what I've done...
Pay so much, they're cash poor, but they have great...
I know. Well, they're cash poor. They're land rich and cash poor. A lot of people are... I've had that, too. Sometimes I'm land rich and cash... Sometimes I'm cash rich and land poor. I like it both ways, but as I get older, I like the more conservative route. So I did something that I don't know if you can do, but it was great. I love our farmers. As you know, in our tax bill, we have a clause that's very important. We were losing a lot of farms to the banks because a loving mother and father would die and left their farm to their children or their child, but their children, their family. And they loved their family, and they thought they were doing them a favor, but they had a 50% tax to pay. So the land would get valued, and at a high number, because some of the farms were valuable, but they didn't, they couldn't quantify it. And they'd go out and borrow money to pay the estate tax or the death tax, as it's called. And they'd overextend, and they'd lose the farm. And they'd commit suicide in many cases.
We're seeing that.
No. Our levels are nowhere near 50%. They're not. We've just introduced where it's paid over many years. Works out
that's good.
An extra 2% a year over 10 years. So it's not at those levels by any stretch of the imagination. But the other thing that we've done, as you know, is make sure that we've got a pathway for farmers that actually increases their year-on-year income, which is the most important thing. And in all of the deals that we do, we ensure that our farmers are the central focus for much of it, particularly on the agriculture, including in the US deal, because I don't think we can go on for years saying that it's acceptable for farmers to have a year-on-year income which isn't sufficient. We've got to fix that problem. We can't simply live with that problem, so it's a very different situation.
Well, we ended the estate tax. There is no estate tax on farmers. So when a parent leaves their farm, because again, a lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that dirt. That dirt is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else. I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's always beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. Now, what happens is, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless; they wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax in those situations. So there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
Back to migration, one of the hot issues in Britain is migrants being housed in hotels and people in the local communities not feeling safe. Is that an appropriate place to house migrants?
I don't like anything about it. They shouldn't be allowed in. Anybody illegally should not be allowed in the country. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Nice to see you.